data is changing the way we are living in the world of hospitality.
It's not just additional revenue, it's actually making baseline revenues as well. Everybody's solution for revenue management is bring a channel manager. But sorry, revenue management was about the decision of how to price.
What is your definition of dynamic pricing in hospitality?
Revenue management is not just about improving the top line, it's also about creating the top line. Dynamic pricing is also driven from the same aspect.
What are some of the areas in hospitality where you really feel that, okay, these are the areas which are ready for artificial intelligence?
It can be used in any sphere of life. The only thing that cannot be replaced is that smile on the face of the person that's greeting you. That's what AI can't do.
As a
I'm hoping that won't change.
Hi, if you're in the hospitality industry today, you are going through a massive change. Whether you're the owner or you're the staff or you're a person from a revenue management team or from the technology, you are undergoing this change. The way you're looking at your customer, the way the customer is looking at you, the way you're using your technology and the technology responding back to you. This is all undergoing a change. The main culprit is the data. Today with me, we'll be talking a lot about how data is changing the way we are living in the world of hospitality, the way we are making revenues here. And with me, I have a very reputed professional and now an entrepreneur, Ms. Vinita Khar. She has been in this industry for over 17 years, worked across multiple long chains, internationally known, for example, Taj Group, the Hyatt Group, and now she's an entrepreneur taking care of Aumentar. I would love for Vinita to talk about herself, and in this session, you will be having an amazing time learning about technology and how it's shaping up the new world of hospitality. Hi, Vinita.
Hi, it's a pleasure being here, and thank you so much for this opportunity. Yeah, I mean, I'm thrilled to be here.
It's a pleasure for you to come over here and to talk to us about such amazing things that you have worked across. So before this session, we spoke a lot about the different things that you have worked, and I would like for you to talk about what is Aumentar.
Sure.
What do you do here?
Sure. Aumentar Hospitality is a very nascent development. We started this company in January. It's going to look after three things for the audience of hospitality. One is representation services, which is international hotels need representation in India, and also domestic hotels that need GSAs. That's one part of it. The other two parts are very related to what your services are, but it can only help aid them. It can't take over them. So there's nothing for you to worry about. One, of course, is revenue management and sales trainings. Because we did speak about lack of talent and talent improvement. So I guess that's what we are looking at aiding in that space. And the third thing, which is largely where I think there is a lot of collaboration between both of us that's possible, is providing strategic guidance to hotels in using data better. And not just data, but how they can improve their top line with multiple strategies, which largely are driven from a pricing perspective. So I guess that's something that we can look at a later stage on how we could collaborate and move forward on.
Wonderful. See, you have invested, I should say, more than 17 years in the hospitality industry. You have seen a lot. You have seen it evolve, change, going through multiple waves of evolution. Help us walk through that. And also the most recent one, which has happened post-COVID. What has been that one thing which you know that every time a change happens, this parameter or this dimension of hospitality industry evolves drastically?
So yeah, I mean, I started my career in 2005, and I guess I can't really talk too much about the first 2 years because all I was doing was learning. I mean, there were lots of things happening. There was something called the Auto Show, then there was Aero Show happening in Bangalore. So there were these demand factors which were interesting. I didn't know how they impacted us, but they seemed like something I wanted to study about and get to know more about. However, then moving on, we got the 2008 crisis, which was basically the Taj attacks. And that's where I learned that there is a lot more in revenue management than what meets the eye. Because everybody perceives revenue management or pricing as something to make additional revenue. We forget that it's not just additional revenue, it's actually making baseline revenues as well. It's also about ensuring that you maximize or capture the demand that's available and make sure that you can keep a consistent level of demand, right? So we're not only talking about how can we make more money or how can we make additional money, we're talking about how can we stay relevant as well, right? So that's, after that, then there have been different curves that kept coming. You had the economy going through its ups and downs. You had another bout of the international market really, not traveling as much. And a large portion of my work has been in the Mumbai market. So we face that almost every year. One horrendous rainfall and everybody gives an advisory, no travel to Mumbai. Now, how do you deal with that? That's also something that's a changing situation, which you need to work with on a real-time basis, right? And of course, post-COVID, right? I mean, see, COVID for this industry was a very difficult time because people had to downsize. People had to go on no salaries. People had to go on low salaries. They had to stick around, and it was really a very gloomy time for this industry. But the only thing true about people from Mumbai and the hospitality industries, they come back with a bang. And that's exactly what the hospitality industry has done, right? If you see the development pipeline of all the top hotel companies, they are booming. People thought that hospitality will not show growth now for the next couple of years. But if you just look at their growth figures, they're not short of nothing. True. They're giving all the tech companies, everything a run for the money.
The initial part of COVID was very speculative.
Correct.
What's going to happen? But as the workations began, so those hotels, I mean, revenue managers were having fun, right?
Absolutely.
I mean, they were selling rooms at 15,000 rupees per night, and things went in a very different way. So what people were very skeptical about, COVID gave them a very different way of looking at things because your customers' behaviors started to change drastically.
Correct.
What happened to the technology side? Customers changed.
Sure.
What happened to technology?
So that, see, primarily hospitality always thought, or rather large companies always thought that everything existed and they had control over everything, right? So I think there was a huge gap in investment. There was a huge gap in tech. And even today, their dependence is a lot, but they don't invest as much as they should, right? So when we look at it, data not talking to each other, having different independent systems. Somebody comes and tells them that this is a great system. They'll go and invest in it, but they don't know how it's going to sync up. And if you don't learn to use data as an integrated model, it's only going to be a piece of information. And there's not much that you can do with piece of information. You need something that can be worked on. You need something that's continual. You need something that you can drive results from. You need something that can talk to you. And that will only happen when you have clean information. It was very rightly said, garbage in is garbage out.
Absolutely. So for a larger hotel chain, still things look much better when it comes to adoption of new technologies.
That's correct.
Even investing in it.
Correct.
But the interesting pain point which you mentioned was the unstructured manner in which the technology is growing, right?
Correct.
So you have different types of systems but not talking to each other. Let's begin with the larger chains. How do these companies, or how should these companies be strategically looking at this? Because There are RMS systems, there are PMSs, there are CMSs, then something you might be having an inbuilt in-house BI engine, right? Not talking to each other beautifully. It has to be in sync.
Correct.
But what exactly are these larger chains doing to make sure that there is a consistency that is coming up, at least that data starts making more sense, people are using it to enhance their revenues? What are they doing?
So see, some companies that I have worked with work on this very beautifully, and some are still in the learning curve, right? Um, the most important part is that what tends to see technology keeps evolving, right? And it's important to keep pace with it, because if you don't work on a latest model of any system, you're going to miss out on the advantages that it brings to the table. The reason that tech is advancing is because there is some feature that has come in that needs to be incorporated, and that's for your benefit, right? So if you don't use the latest model, or if you, and it doesn't necessarily mean latest by the latest term, but latest technology by that term, right?
Yeah.
If you don't use that, you're missing out on something that can be driven, or that can help you speak or analyze the data better. What tends to happen in these organizations is that there is somebody taking a decision who's not the one that's actually working on the data. So there is a little bit of a miss in how does this aspect, what is the real time impact of that information, right? Because and I don't blame anybody, and it's not about whether that person's right or wrong. It's about a perspective. It's about, is it worth that investment? But I think a collaborative model of understanding from that person on how exactly would it work and what would the key takeaways from there be might probably get them to be able to take better decisions. So I just feel that that gap and that miss of seeing a value for money return is where there is a little bit of a miss existent.
I have known of large hotel chains in India who have invested multi crores in doing digital transformation, trying to sync everything up, but failed massively. So, what is it required to make that success happen?
It's a very, very simple answer. See, it is totally driven by who's on ground, what is his expectation, who's driving it. No, three different. I am the person that's sitting on the system that is using the technology,
The actual user,
right? There is somebody who is, say, just for the namesake, is my boss, the general manager, right? So now this is two people,
right?
And then there's a third person that's actually driving this from, say, a corporate office or some other office, right? His intention has not been clarified to this last user. So maybe a small thing like data capture is missing, right? And your idea was to increase customer base. I can actually take an example, right? So let's take OTAs, right?
Right.
OTAs were engaged in to grow business.
True.
Right? Was this a short-term investment or a long-term investment? To this person, no clarity. To the general manager, you've given him a overall view that this is what we want to do as a strategy for the company, right? That guy probably has a longer term view where he thinks he's going to create new customer base, he's going to get data from it, he's going to engage with this information, he's going to work on it, build it, create loyalty, do all of that. Has that been communicated down the line? Does this last mile know that they're supposed to collect this information? Do they know what are they supposed to do with that information? Do they know where are they supposed to enter that information? Do they know how they're supposed to collaborate this information? If not, what the vision that was seen versus what was achieved, we're in two different places.
True. That's how the transformations fail, right?
Correct,
Because
absolutely.
on the ground, when the rubber starts hitting the road,
Correct.
we then realize that the road was not strong enough to handle it.
And here you've given your entire control to the OTA, and they're moving forward. But what's happening to your unit where you really wanted to invest?
A lot of RMs have also informed about pricing becoming a very tedious activity for them, right? For example, you're getting rate shopping from one engine. Then there is one system which is if you have that system, it is doing some level of forecasting. That forecasting is also based on what happened in the history. It is not updating itself. It is not identifying patterns. It is not the latest AI-driven technology. It is some technology which is doing some level of forecast on some rule which has been created by some person. Okay? That rule may or may not even apply to a property which is based in India.
Sure.
Or so rule which is created somewhere may not get applied in different geographies.
Correct.
Right? But this RM is sitting in his office, getting this data dump from a rate shopping engine, looking at the forecast, then talking to his GM, saying that, what should be achieved. There is a different tangent that happens there. And now this person has to take a decision that should he or she be increasing the price, reducing the price, what is happening in the future. It becomes very chaotic because systems are not talking to each other.
That's correct.
Right? What do you see as the future of RMS globally? Because you have seen this industry in depth. You have seen things evolve. But what does future look like to you?
See, I think going forward, tech's going to play a huge role. And when I say tech, I'm also looking at AI being a very, very, with early signs being an adapter to this entire situation. However, I'll just go back to one part where you said forecasting, right? You need to up the skill, okay? And when I'm saying up the skill, if you have inherent talent that comes and joins you in different positions, and they've not been aided with an educational qualification or with a supportive qualification, let's remove it as an educational qualification, could be unfair, but a supportive qualification where they understand analytics, where they understand data, where they're able to understand the importance of forecasting, where they're able to be on the same page as a person that is actually supposed to be the driver of the ship, right? Till you don't bring all of them on the same level, it's unfair to try and see how tech is going to work and how is it going to get easier. Unfortunately, the current state of affairs is that revenue managers are glorified OTA managers. That's what they do. And that's why it's so complicated. You bring everybody's solution for revenue management is bring a channel manager. But sorry, revenue management was about the decision of how to price. It was not about how to send the price to a particular format. True. So we've moved away from the essence of revenue management. We've moved away from what the gist was. We moved away from what were we supposed to achieve. What was that position all meant to be? It was supposed to be a strategic position that was supposed to help leverage. You've made that position something which is just the data input field.
True.
That's not what it was supposed to be. True. So first, there are multiple things that will need to be achieved. One of them for sure is relook at the talent and relook at what you're providing them. So again, collaboratively, where does a tech sit, right? If you need to see, rate shopping from one tool to another doesn't change largely because it's something that's a shopping, right? It's just about what's applied where, correct? You can, now you get rate shopping tools for really, really low prices, right? So it's not something that's rocket science. Anybody can largely develop it. So that's not where the problem lies. The problem is not even the channel manager. The problem is, how did you decide why you wanted to price a particular product like this? Did you even give it thought on what are the changing situations? Did you even give it thought on what is available to you? Did you give it thought that what do you need to do with this information that's all at your hand? And that will give you the answer.
So the art and science of pricing is very important.
Absolutely.
Whether it is built inside a tool or trained in a person, because in the end, the person is going to be using the tool.
Correct.
Right? But the tool becomes a very big leverage. So RMS, which basically consolidates all of these things together, gives out this one price where the person says, hey, you know what, looks absolutely okay, because even the individual has to be talented enough to understand whether the price that is coming out of the tool, is it even making sense?
Yes.
Okay. Very interesting thought. Now touching back on this point of talent, okay, not just in India, globally.
Absolutely.
This is a problem. What is your take on it? How does the next the Gen Z population, which is now entering into the industry with their own emotional thoughts, and the RM being a very turbulent side of turbulent, still glorified, but that side of the hospitality industry, a lot depends on the RMs. When the new generation enters into this, what do you see the future as? What kind of talent do you think should hospitality be hiring over here?
See, to call a spade, right? I'm a non-hospitality graduate, right? I'm a person who came from outside. So I just think what's okay. So just to break this down into two parts, I just think what's happened is people have stopped looking at hospitality as a go-to career from one aspect that uh, social media, digital marketing has really taken a front seat in a lot of places. So people, if you go back 10, 12 years, people did not think marketing was something that was so achievable, because then the only thing that we saw in marketing um, was advertising, was was really good marketing per se, right? Whereas now with digital marketing, people think this is the most accessible and the most easily doable thing, right? So keeping that in mind, we need to make sure that how do we best adapt this gap, right? And when we're looking at that, we need to figure how we're going to move forward with it.
So we spoke about the future of RMSs and the larger organizations investing in tech. Of course, somebody's investing in tech, they'll invest in talent as well. But what happens to boutique hotels? How do you think is their evolution lying in this entire game?
See, in revenue management, there's also a centralized team that's getting formed, right? So if you really want to look at talent does not necessarily need to be at a unit level. We're not really looking at an individual hotel having a revenue manager per se. You can, this is one position that can work on remote. There's no issue because it's data that's kind of flowing everywhere, right? So it's not necessary that the person needs to be unit based. And there are, I'm completely game for people saying that they want to outsource it, they give it to a particular company that drives it for them. Those things are absolutely fine. But there still needs to be somebody in the unit that understands what's happening, because that's the point of continuity per se for that unit, right? When they're deciding what happens in the future, you're doing you or anybody else is doing more the running job and what's happening on a day-to-day basis, but there's somebody that needs to think ahead for the next 2 years what's going to happen, right? So that there has to be that link that kind of joins back and keeps everything aligned. So I think even for those organizations, even for the boutique hotels, it's extremely relevant to have the right talent. Is it, and also, when you came up with somebody who's investing in tech necessarily invest in talent, sometimes they think either or, but that's not the best idea. For one to work, the other is required, right? To get the best of the package, you need both. So don't look at replacing, look at what can they do generatively effectively together. And that's where the importance lies. And it's important that we put both together to get the best results out. And for a boutique hotel, I would still say that there are lots of things that can be done, but it's important that you have someone who understands it. And largely in a boutique hotel, it's probably a smaller ship to run. So maybe a role that does double responsibility could be a solution that you could work on.
What are some of the areas in hospitality where you really feel that, okay, these are the areas which are ready for artificial intelligence?
See, I think there is artificial intelligence is, I think everywhere in some form or fashion there can be pockets or snippets of artificial intelligence that can help. Today, what do I watch? We always want to create customer loyalty. We want to generate customer engagement. If I go and stay at a hotel 3 times, there is information on me eating khichdi every evening. That's something that AI can study, put it into my history. It could be done earlier as well. Now the chances of you being able to capture it is easier because multi-point capture is possible, right? And AI really works faster with information, right? So it can be used in every and any sphere of life, from having resources in reservations, not being able to draft emails and you having to send someone who drafts that email for them and they put it in their drafts, to making an itinerary, to getting the best selling options, to the only thing that cannot be replaced is that smile on the face of the person that's greeting you. That's what AI can't do for you.
As of now.
I'm hoping that won't change.
What is your take on the Indian hospitality industry?
It's very close to my heart. So my take will be biased because I think I stand here because of that industry, and I'm really passionate about it. And I can really say that it is one of my first loves. So it is growing rampantly, but it's running faster than it is able to cope up, right? And when I say that, I mean, like we discussed earlier, you don't have the right talent, you don't have the right systems, you don't have the right tech, you're not able to keep pace. You are providing for services, you are doing what a hotel was always meant to do, which was providing a clean bed and giving a good clean washroom. But that's not what brands are all about. So
the experience.
So that part, I don't think the experience is a miss. I mean, we've got great companies providing great experiences, but it's the continuity that we're talking about. It's the it's being able to generate something more. That something more still is a miss. I mean, and I'm not saying that only as a comparative to international markets, because I think it's a miss everywhere. It's just that some places, some brands are a little ahead of the others, and some still have some catch up to do.
Are Indian hotels ready to imbibe artificial intelligence?
Let's first get the systems in place.
Because
if I don't have a system that captures all my information, like we spoke about a boutique hotel, right? If I don't have a system that captures demand trends, that captures guest history, then AI is far from what it can help me in, right? I mean, yeah, maybe reservations, writing back emails, yes, you can use AI, but integrated AI, some time to go.
Dynamic pricing, is the Indian customer ready for it?
Even if he's not, I think he's learned it the hard way. I mean, look at what's happening in Zepto, Swiggy. So I don't think he's got any choice left. He can say, I don't like it in this sector, I don't like it in that sector. But does it really work? It's not in his control. It's what's coming to him. What's coming to him is dynamic pricing. So I guess he just has to live with it.
What is your definition of dynamic pricing in hospitality?
So in my opinion, dynamic pricing is pricing that is changing basis demand and supply, basis availability, basis what is available to what needs to be sold and how much of it is sold, right? So if there is, and like I said, right, when we started off, I said revenue management is not just about improving the top line, it's also about creating the top line. So that's the difference. So the pricing is also dynamic pricing is also driven from the same aspect, that you also need to help develop the base. You also need to help study your displacement analysis, see whether you want to pick up a long stay. What is the base business that you have? How much is your total inventory? What do you want to sell at? How do you want to continue sales? What is your strategy based on? When do you trigger pricing? So there are lots of aspects, and that's where it comes from.
What is your take on open pricing?
So I personally feel that somebody has not studied information well. When you subject someone who's been loyal to you, or who has committed to your brand at an early stage, and you go back and drop your price, it's unfair for that person who actually committed to you 6 months out, saying that this is the best price, because that's how earlier we had build on pricing, which basically meant that the further out you buy, the better price you generate. Now, by change of that, where you drop prices in the 7-day window because you have not got the right kind of demand, it's an extremely unfair way and an extremely it's an unfair way to to penalize a customer, because what's the point then? Then you're just telling him that I don't have any commitment to what I actually made an offer to you. Today I can do whatever I want to do. So I don't think that's the most from a long-term perspective, that's not the best way to move. But I do understand at the same time that demand and supply is something that nobody can control. And there will be situations. But I think I still belong to the old school where I think there has to be a science behind it. There has to be a build-up on it. And yes, there will be anomalies. If you get a group cancellation that happens last minute, you don't have a choice but to flex that. But then be bold enough to say that I did this and I can give you another offer, right? At least then make sure that you cover it up in some form fashion.
Got it. When can hotels maximize on their revenues, and is maximizing revenues considered as taboo in this industry?
I think if you go back about 10 years, maybe, but now it's not. Now it's everybody knows. I mean, airlines were the beginners of this, and we've paid 30,000 rupees to go to Delhi, and we've also paid 3,000 rupees to go to Delhi. So I guess now, and I'm saying Bombay, Delhi, I think now it's a very acceptable thing. People still prefer feeling good about it by saying, I got the best price. That's unfortunately the way we as a consumer like to believe, right? That we want to get the best price. But is it taboo? No, it's not.
But wouldn't open price actually do this? Because there will be certain days where my price will be very low, right? For the same check-in date,
yes,
right? I might go low, I might go high. It has to go both sides.
I agree, and that's why. So one aspect of open pricing I'm okay with, where you're doing a build-on pricing. But when you penalize somebody who commits to you at an early on stage, right, where you have to build business and move forward. And like I said, sometimes I understand, but if if this is not your strategy, right, just to clarify the stance, if this is not your strategy, then you shouldn't mind giving that guy who booked you 6 months out maybe a special discount or maybe something to tell him, I know you did this,
maybe
I know
upgrade.
You committed to us,
maybe an upgrade,
right? So you committed to us and we owe you something that doesn't cost us as much, but do something for that guest so he feels that yes, I was taken care of at the end of it. So it's a win-win for both, where you've created a customer, somebody loyal, he's committed to you, you've also committed back to him, because such things are not always going to be in your control.
Got it. Great. It has been lovely talking to you. I don't know how the time has passed by. And thank you so much for contributing your thoughts to the Road Ahead Talk Show. And thank you everyone for listening through it. Thank you so much.
It's been a pleasure. Thank you.
Thank you so
much.